Welcome to another NFL episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Ware. You know that man next to me, the Austin Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not seen it already, college football episode came out literally today, the day as we are
Yeah,
recording this being Thursday. Round one of the college football playoff. The day we're recording this is actually close to 24 hours away with that first round matchup of
yeah.
Alabama and Oklahoma. So give that episode a watch. Plus, we give you our full bracket predictions. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think we're going with the basic picks, I promise you we did not. So you want to see what those brackets are, go tune into that episode and you can see what we end up picking, plus a special guest appearance from a long time
Yes,
who's a major, very popular on the podcast, some could say.
yes.
So go give that episode a watch. But NFL here, man, oh man, Austin, the NFL was just lame this week. No big storylines
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Nothing
Um,
interesting. No division or playoff altering moments occurred. No dynasties are put on the verge of extinction. Nothing of the sort, truly.
Well, honestly, we should just wrap it up. That's awesome. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. No. NFL, so a lot did happen this past weekend, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to dive into it all. But first, we always pick our biggest winners and losers here. And Austin, do we just want to? I honestly feel like we know where we're going to go for biggest loser. Do we just want to agree on that and just like
Yeah,
we'll talk about it in a second? I think we
yeah.
can
I,
both
I,
agree on.
I think we can agree. The biggest loser of the week. Now that it's official, I think we both agree on the same team, and we'll talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah, we will dive into that in a minute. Let's start with the one that could be creative because there's a bunch of different ones. Give me your biggest winner from the week 15 in the NFL.
Look, I'm gonna go and go with my I called it moment. I'm gonna go with the Buffalo Bills here. You know me as the Buffalo Bills supporter on the podcast. And look, they came out and they did exactly what I thought they were gonna do. New England got one in Buffalo, and they get one back here in Foxborough with a 35-31 victory. It took a 21-point comeback in
Yep.
this one, and that still almost wasn't enough. But a great effort here by Buffalo. Josh Allen looked like Josh Allen. James Cook had a fantastic game. Um, he really, I feel like we talked about this a few years ago when James Cook really did break out with this team a year or two ago. Um, but it's just been nice to see like a guy like James Cook kind of break out because
Right.
I know when he's kind of picked later in the draft, it was like, yeah, he was good at Georgia and obviously brothers with Dalvin Cook. He could be kind of an impact guy for the Buffalo Bills and kind of establish that run game that's kind of been lacking for them over the last few years. Uh, and it kind of a slow start, and but now that he's won that job and really been consistent, these type of performances is what got him as that lead back in Buffalo. And when they have James Cook running the ball this well, this is such a tough offense to stop. Josh Allen, he can get the ball to anybody, but when you've got 107 yards on 22 carries and 2 touchdowns on the ground from not Josh Allen, that helps a lot.
Yeah, I still remember a few years ago before they got James Cook, it was literally Josh Allen is the running back for their offense.
Exactly.
He was the
Yeah.
quarterback and the starting running back for the Buffalo Bills, so it's nice to have something to help him out there. For me, I'll go ahead and say my biggest winner, and then we'll dive straight into it. And that's the Atlanta Falcons, who on Thursday Night Football pulled off the shocker despite 19 penalties in the game, Austin. They had 19 penalties for 125 yards, and they still somehow go into Tampa Bay and beat the Buccaneers on Thursday night 29-28 in what we thought was going to be a big shocking thing that cost Tampa the division. We'll dive into more on that in a little bit as far as that
Yeah.
concerned. But talking about this game here with the Falcons, Kirk Cousins uh, looked it up. He's been a killer against the Buccaneers. Every single game of his career against the Buccaneers in Atlanta, he's thrown for over 300 yards, multiple touchdown passes, zero interceptions. Like, he might be the Tampa Bay Buccaneer killer. I really don't know. But
Yeah.
a great win here for the Falcons despite all the penalties. And Tampa, Austin, the wheels continue to start falling off. And I don't know if you saw all the stuff after this game ended. There were players bickering and arguing going into the locker room. You had Todd Bowles drop about 5 F bombs in his press conference. Um, Safe to say things are not good in Tampa Bay right now. But as far as that is, everything's still in front of them.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is, well, obviously the arguments and Todd Bowles clearly frustrated. Like it's not ideal. I think the big thing I take away from it is, look, this is a team that's we'll talk about a little bit how the division looks right now. But uh, I think the big thing for me is when you've got these guys and they're arguing and they expect better in your coach like this, at least you can say the guys care. Like they're not losing because they've quit. These guys haven't just quit and they're like, whatever, hang our heads, go to the locker room. Todd Bowles grilled this team, and I'm glad he was brutally honest with these guys. I'm not saying he's necessarily 1,000% right, but I'm glad he went out there and said something. Maybe this is something that'll get the guys fired up coming into next week. You quit, you gave up in this game, you let us down. What can we do to get back on track? Basically, grilling these guys in the locker room. And I think that's kind of what I want from my head coach. Look, I'm not saying that yelling and maybe getting on guys is always the case, but I think in a situation like this where you don't have any answers, going out there and trying to light a fire under these guys and get them ready to go, I think that's the right approach, especially after, again, what we saw a little bit later this weekend. Nothing is settled in that AFC South. And two of these last three games are really going to decide what this AFC South sounds like. All three games are going to be important, but two of them will be for the crown between a couple of teams here in the AFC South. But look, it was a great performance by the Falcons. Like you said, Kirk Cousins played out of his mind. Kyle Pitts, 11 receptions, 166 yards, and three touchdowns. Kind of the game we expected Kyle Pitts to have every game of his career after being drafted out of Florida. This was a feel-good moment for the Falcons. I don't think that they have a chance to win the division.
No.
I think
they would need to win out and then have plus and happen.
I think they would have to win out. The Panthers and the Bucks would have to split their two games, and then I guess both teams would have to lose the game that they're not playing when they're playing each other. So the other two teams would have to go 1-2 with the win being against the other team at some point, and they would have to win out. And then I don't even know if the tiebreakers would favor them in that case.
I was about to say, because remember, Carolina beat the Falcons twice this year. So they've easily got the head-to-head over them. So really, the only hope Atlanta has is Tampa Bay losing out, Carolina losing out, which is literally impossible for that to happen. So no, their chances to win that division are pretty much dead. But like I said, when we get into it in a little bit, don't want to say I told you so to the people who thought I was crazy for it, but I told you so on that. But give credit where credit's due. Atlanta got the win. But my goodness, it was still ugly for him. Like I said, 19 penalties, 125 yards. I don't know if Raheem Morris gets another year. I think he does, mainly because I think Michael Penix got hurt, and that kind of led to some things happening there. But nonetheless, it's something positive to end the year with as we get into the following weeks. Into Sunday we go, and ladies and gentlemen, let's address it like it is. The big one, Chargers beating the Chiefs 16-13. And Austin, I laid it out. I said on here, there's only one scenario where the Chiefs get eliminated from the playoffs this weekend. And everything that needed to happen happened with that. And the Chiefs are eliminated from playoff contention. First time they will not be in the playoffs in 10 years. Been a decade, ladies and gentlemen. And then you think, wow, that's devastating. I mean, how could this get any worse for the Chiefs? I will raise you one here. That is the unfortunate news of Patrick Mahomes late in that game, suffering a bad knee injury, which has ultimately come out to be a torn ACL and LCL, is what I heard as well. So it's going to be a long road to recovery for Patrick Mahomes. And I mean, Austin, let's just dive into this, because me and you both watched this year as the Chiefs were struggling. We both were like, they're going to get it figured out eventually. They're going to get this figured out, and they're going to be a problem. They can't figure it out anymore. They're eliminated from playoff contention. And now, Austin, you have this injury, which I think could probably change the NFL next year. It will lead to things because it'll depend on how long he takes to recover. But you have this stuff that changes the landscape of the NFL. But, I mean, your thoughts on it. First time in a decade, no Chiefs in the postseason.
Yeah, it's shocking. And 9 of those years have been the Patrick Mahomes run. I believe the year before that, Alex Smith was able to take this team to the top of the AFC South, and into the playoffs. But yeah, this is kind of crazy that it's actually happened. Like you said just a second ago, like we've been waiting. We've been waiting for this team to kind of turn the corner, and it just never happened. And I'll say this. I think it's kind of, I don't know, fortunate is
Yeah.
it's not the word I want to use, but it's kind of fortunate for this team that everything that needed to happen to eliminate them from playoff contention happened this week. Because I mean, had Patrick Mahomes gone down with this injury, but Patriots win, let's
Hmm.
say, and that keeps them alive for even just another week. Well, then it's like you're still kind of actually out though because
Right.
you don't
Love
have
Gardner Minshew, but he is not leading them to the playoffs. I love Gardner Minshew.
yeah,
He's my guy, but
you
he's not.
don't
He's
have
not.
Patrick Mahomes. Probably not going to get the same results out of Gardner Minshew. Um, and it is just like unfortunate. Like I don't know. I personally hate to see it. Maybe there's
Hmm.
some people out there celebrating, but I don't like to see Patrick Mahomes hurt. Again, I've been saying this kind of all year. The way you really want to get it done, I know usually these dynasties kind of tend to fade out with age and teams breaking up because of money. But you really, I don't know. As a competitor, I'd want to beat the team at their best. And to me, with now the injury to Patrick Mahomes, with kind of the struggles that this team has had, they're not playing like a Super Bowl contender. They're not playing like they did even a year ago. And it's just like it's not the same kind of feeling this season when it comes to beating the Chiefs and when it comes to being better than the Chiefs because they just haven't been one of the best teams in football like they usually are. Um, and so I think it's kind of interesting what happens this offseason. The talks of Travis Kelce maybe getting ready to kind of call it a career. And now, everybody knows it. I hate to harp on it for those of you that don't care about it. But he is engaged. He
Yeah.
does have
He's got a wedding that's in the summer.
yeah,
So
he's planning a life outside of football. And I think that's just as important. What else does he have to accomplish
exactly.
in the
Yeah.
NFL? Sure, I get it. Come back and play the game you love. Come back and try and win some more Super Bowls. Come back and add the statistics. But he's done everything he needed to do in his career. And so he could potentially hang it up. How does Patrick Mahomes look next season? Look, he's already started rehab, 9-month rehab period. He could realistically be back for the start of the season. I think that would be interesting to see if that was approved by
Mm,
the training staff. But I think if he really does attack it and work hard, he could seriously be back, very early into next season, and be a legitimate threat. But that's kind of what's so cool about, I think, about these, the future of athletic training over the last 10, 15 years. You think about, I mean, even guys like when Derrick Rose tore his ACL in
yeah.
2011, he missed a year and a half. I don't think he played at all in the next NBA
No.
season. And of course, that was a little bit later into the NBA's timeline comparatively, obviously a playoff game. But Derrick Rose wasn't back in 9 months. He was back
No.
a year and a half later. And it's just crazy the way that it's evolved now, where this is a 9-month process. And part of that's because we don't sit guys around for 3 months after ACL surgery and let them recover, and then we get into rehab. You get guys
Yeah.
straight into rehab. That way they're losing as little as possible. They're recovering
Exactly.
right away. I mean, you think about guys with your leg propped up for 3 months, you forget how to use it. You got to relearn how to use the leg and how to walk again. And so yeah, it's going to be a process and it's going to be a grind. But he's certainly the type of competitor that's going to attack it. I don't think we'll see the last of Patrick Mahomes. I'll be interested to see kind of how his mobility is impacted
Yes.
for
That
the
was my
rest of his
thinking.
career. But even more like in those first few games back, when you're still a little hesitant to run on it because you think about Patrick Mahomes, and the thing that makes him so tough and so unpredictable is he's not the fastest guy, he's not the strongest guy when he's running or being tackled, but he's crafty. He finds a way. He's got that vision and that mindset. He knows when to get out of there. He's evasive. He can get out of the pocket, and that's what he does to hurt teams. He's got a cannon arm. He makes some ridiculous throws, and then just when you think you've got him beat, you take one wrong step and he just kind of slip past you and just get the yards he needs. He's not a Lamar Jackson where he's going to take it for a touchdown for 70 yards or a Josh Allen where he might run through you or go over you,
Yeah.
but he's smart enough to get to that line to gain and get down. He just has that mindset. And so it'll be interesting to see if that how that kind of mindset and that attack and that ability is maybe, kind of suppressed a little bit, if not completely eliminated, for at least those first few games coming back. You think you might try to stay in the pocket a little bit more. Um, just a lot of decisions to make this offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, it'll be an interesting ride, and it'll be interesting to see kind of who stays and who goes. Obviously, I think if Travis Kelce retires, and maybe what you think on your timeline of on Patrick Mahomes, I think this could open the door for guys maybe on bigger contracts or due for big contracts to maybe see about resetting some pieces and kind of seeing not necessarily a
Mhm.
rebuild per se, but to kind of reset and refresh some of these guys. You think of a Chris Jones. I think he's been a great piece of their defense, but we talked about it in the Jacksonville game. I think is the biggest example. Just doesn't have the same heart and the same fight, it feels like this year. I'm not saying he's a quitter. I'm not saying he's all of a sudden just washed. But you think about it, a play that could have been an easy sack for Chris Jones to just get through and get a hand on Trevor Lawrence. And he's just standing as Trevor Lawrence stumbles, scurries, and gets up and runs into the end zone. It just feels like a guy like that who, already big money, already contract disputes over the last couple of years with him. Maybe that's a contract you look to move on from and kind of reset. And maybe see what you can find in the draft and in free agency. You're still the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that's still going to have some appeal, especially getting Patrick Mahomes back. But I'm interested to see what the mindset is really going to look like in Kansas City now that there's could potentially be some big changes this offseason.
Truly is, and plus you mentioned, like I'm about to mention, they are well over the salary cap, so they are going to have to cut some costs this season. So that's
Yeah,
something to keep an eye on. But the one thing, like I said, I don't think a reset's not a bad idea because while the Chiefs would lose pieces, they have been one of the better drafting teams in the NFL over
agreed.
the last couple of years. Isaiah Pacheco, anybody ever heard of him? Was a seventh round pick, I believe, somewhere in there. I mean, so like, they've had a lot of guys they drafted well that they can bounce back.
I mean, not to mention, this team is going to have what, like a top 10 first round pick this
Potentially,
year.
depending on how the rest of this year
Yeah,
goes. I mean, they go
they
six
could
and
end up,
11. They could have like up near the top 10 probably.
yeah, they could be close. I know, kind of looking at the board right now, I know some draft projections have him going a little bit higher just because of the season he's had and some of the appeal with him. But I think the first team I look at that maybe could be needy for this guy, think about a Jeremiah Love. And you just take him
Mm,
and drop him into this offense. Pacheco's been a little bit injury ridden. Obviously, Kareem Hunt's kind of been solid for him in relief. But he's a veteran. He's older. Why
yeah.
not get a Heisman runner-up? The best running back in college football this year, and clearly an explosive and talented playmaker, could definitely help take some of the pressure off Patrick Mahomes in his first year. Of course, that's if he ends up sliding down to them. But they're the first team I think I look at when I go down the board, and I think running back could be a huge playmaker like this, could be something that this team looks to jump at and get. I think offensive line's been pretty all right for him, like you said, drafted pretty well over the last few years, and they've got some guys I think they trust a lot, and they've locked up a lot of guys that
Hmm.
have kind of been super helpful for them. So I don't know that they'd look for offensive line necessarily. I'd look for a big skill position player, whether that be a receiver, running back, or maybe somebody on the defensive side of the ball that could be a big impact player for them in the early to mid first round this year.
Yeah, I think so. And just talk about just a couple of stats here, Austin. With the Chiefs being eliminated, this is the first NFL playoffs since 1998 that will not include Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or Patrick Mahomes in it at all. Since
Wow.
1998. This is also will guaranteed to be the first AFC Championship game to not feature Mahomes or Brady since 2011, which was Steelers and Jets. Just bizarre to think about there. And then this one I thought was crazy. Just think about this: the last 22 Super Bowls, Austin, the last 22 Super Bowls, only six quarterbacks have represented the AFC during that time. I mentioned Mahomes, Manning, and Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco, and Joe Burrow. Yeah, so this will be the seventh quarterback to represent the AFC in the last 23 Super Bowls. That's just bizarre stats to think about there.
Yeah.
But absolutely, we'll see what the Chiefs do the rest of the year. Because, like you said, there is a very much possibility they finish the year just losing out and having near top 10 pick. And let's just say it's the Chiefs have been aggressive in the draft before, trading up for when they want guys. So if they really want someone at the top of this draft, they will not hesitate to trade up and go get them. So I think that's something to keep an eye on
I
here.
mean,
Another,
look at what
yeah,
they did with not to interrupt, but with Xavier Worthy just a couple of years ago, and
yeah,
that's when they were obviously a contender. They went to the Super Bowl last year, and Xavier Worthy being a big part of that kind of push last year, especially after Rashee Rice was hurt. So yeah, I'm with you. Even in their best years, they've been aggressive in the draft. So yeah, I absolutely could see this being a team that even if they end up with a top 10 pick, could maybe try to swing up closer to that top five if they, like you said, got a guy they've got their eye on.
I'm about to say if there's and like I said, they're one of the best scouting teams in the NFL, so I think really much it's got a chance. And I still remember a few years ago, I think it was whenever they got L'Jarius Sneed when he was still on the roster, they moved up 10 spots to go get him. Uh, so we'll see what they can do in the draft. We'll see what they can do in the postseason. Congrats to the Chargers though, who
Yeah.
are trying their best to keep up with the Broncos in this AFC West. We'll dive more into the Broncos in a second. Um, Talking about this next one, you hinted at Buffalo beating New England 35-31 was a truly bizarre game. 21 nothing Patriots start. It looks like it's going to be a blowout runaway. It's 24-7 at halftime and the Bills just went on a freight train in the second half. My goodness, they couldn't be stopped at all in this game. And the inexperience in these close games for the Patriots kind of hurt them late down the stretch in this one when it came to it. They responded with a big touchdown run from Travion Henderson, but then they got the ball back and had a chance, and they just couldn't do anything with it. So, Patriots, I think, will still be fine. But, Austin, this AFC East, it is not wrapped up yet. Bills are very much still alive here.
Yeah, and look, it's exciting to kind of see these two teams going at it and trading blows. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these teams kind of close out the season. But I'll say this: what a what a kind of second half of the season Travion Henderson's had. I know he was
My
drafted
goodness.
and kind of expected to take over that lead back position, and then it kind of seemed to be slow out of the gates. And Ramondre Stevenson was still getting a lot of carries. But look, the last couple of weeks in this game, 14 carries for 148 yards, two touchdowns. So, over 10 yards a carry, casual for the rookie running back. Um, Obviously a force, obviously impactful. It's impressive what they did here. But yeah, I'll be interested to see the way these two teams finish out the season and finish out this race in the AFC East because, like you said, not far from wrapped up, especially with the way Buffalo's playing right now.
Yeah, just looking at his stats, Austin, just his carries per game to start the season: 5 carries, 3 carries, 11 carries, 7, 6, 9, 2 carries. Then from the Cleveland game to now, 10 carries, 14, 14, 19, 18, 11, 14. He's averaging double digit carries a game now. So absolutely, he has been awesome. He's playing like the guy that we all expected from the jump, but I guess Vrabel wanted to be a little bit patient with him. Because let's remember, it did take Derrick Henry some time under him to eventually
Yeah.
take over that starting running back role. Remember, DeMarco Murray was the starting
Yes.
tailback there whenever Derrick Henry got drafted. So very much real possibility there. Let's dive into the afternoon games because, man, there was an entertaining afternoon slate. And let's start with the big one here. Broncos beating the Packers. Another one-score win for the Denver Broncos, Austin, winning at 34-26 over the Packers. We'll dive into the Packers and the obvious injury concerns. We'll dive into that in just a sec. But let's give the Broncos their due. They're a team 12-2. You can judge the wins all you want for being close games against teams, all you want. But the fact is, end of the day, Austin, a 12-2 team is very much one of the best in the NFL. And you got to respect that at this point.
I'll say this much. Close games where you're playing bad and sloppy, that's one thing. 34-26 isn't a bad, sloppy game when Bo Nix is slinging it for 302 and 4 touchdowns. Cortland Sutton, 7 receptions, 113 yards, and a tutty. Look, this offense was off to a slow start to start the season, but Bo Nix seems to be settling in, having success, and just in time for this team. Like you said, 12-2. I'm not judging them by the close games here because it was one thing at the beginning of the year, a little bit worrisome with the offense struggling. But when you're playing close games because two offenses are scoring points, I mean, this is an offense first league. If the defenses are bad and the offenses are good, I think you stand a lot better of a chance than if your offense is bad and your defense is good. So I think I'm not necessarily saying buy stock in them to win the Super Bowl, win the AFC, but I think it's time to start thinking, hey, this team has got a talented enough offense where they're going to be able to go out and take down the best. And for Green Bay, yeah, kind of an unfortunate finish to this game and unfortunate scenario when you think about competing for not just the NFC North here, but also for a potential spot in the playoffs at all. Kind of with the way tiebreakers and stuff are shaking out right now.
Yeah, so I'm on the Packers. Packers were up 23-14 in the third quarter of this game. Since that point to the end of it, Micah Parsons, star linebacker, tears his ACL. Christian Watson, I don't know if he's officially out for the rest of the year, but it sure looked like a very serious collarbone injury for him.
Yes.
Zach Tom, one of their best players, re-injured his knee. Evan Williams is injured. But let's say like it is, Austin. I mean, I don't want to say their season's over, but it feels very much similar to a team that made the playoffs last year in the Packers and limped their way into Philadelphia with such an injured roster and got beat. And it feels like we're kind of trending towards that same sort of thing again this year with these injuries. And the one thing you mentioned, and obviously we'll dive into that Bears Packers game this Saturday in a moment. Micah Parsons has been a great difference in some of these big games, and not having him for the rest of the year with a torn ACL, man, I mean it is a brutal blow for the Packers. They went from potential Super Bowl contender to now without him and some of them, it's can they even win a game in the playoffs?
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to put anything past this Packers team. They're talented. They're very capable. But look, I'll say this. If we flash back to just a week ago, literally just a week ago, we're talking about Christian Watson having two absolutely huge breakaway touchdowns against the Chicago Bears defense. We're talking about Micah Parsons getting pressure on Caleb Williams to force him to hold on to the ball just 1 second longer, and he throws the game-losing interception. We're talking about guys that were literal difference makers in a one-score game a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
just a week ago. So yeah, these guys are huge, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of the way everything shakes out. Like we said, kind of a big game coming up for Green Bay and the rest of the NFC North and the rest of the NFC playoff hopefuls as the Bears and the Packers square off on Saturday.
Yeah, I think a certain team in Detroit all of a sudden maybe feels, hey, this isn't even with the loss that they had. Rams beating the Lions 41-34. Great shootout game, high scoring affair. The injuries on defense and not having the depth defensively continues to hurt the Lions' chances of truly getting to that full blown Super Bowl contender every year, sort of thing. The offense is clicking, they're doing good there, but the defense continues to be the issues. But like I said, even with that, with the Packers having all these injuries, the Lions think, hey, we went out. We still got very much a shot to get into this postseason. But 41-34, Rams win a shootout in LA. Like I said, whenever these two teams play, it's always an instant classic, and this is what it provided us.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of the result that I was expecting in this game. I think we talked about it very much in the way that it kind of ended up being. Um, but yeah, this was a great game and two teams that dueled. And I know it's a 7 point finish final. And look, this game looked even closer than that. There's really, it's tough. This is one of those games where you're like, nobody really lost. Like, sure, the
Mm-hmm.
the Lions had less points, but they played a great football game and they fought right down until the end. The Rams have just been that kind of superpower this year.
Yeah, we'll dive into their matchup that's coming up here tonight, actually, in just a little bit, but a big win for the Rams there. And then, Austin, we're back in the NFC South. Just when we thought Tampa lost on Thursday night, we all thought, man, Carolina's got a shoe-in game against the Saints. No way they blow this. Surely no one's thought the Saints would win.
Surely nobody called it.
Yeah. I don't want to say anybody called it. Saints win on a walk-off field goal to take down the Panthers 20-17. And not gonna lie, with the way this game was looking at points, Panthers were up 17-7 in the third quarter. I was like, maybe I got this wrong. Maybe Carolina's finally ready to seize the moment. Then a field goal happened for the Saints. And then Tyler Shook had a big play in the fourth quarter for a touchdown. And then they get that walk-off field goal. And again, I'll tell you this about the Saints. Are they the good team? No, but Kellen Moore is those guys playing tough in every single game pretty much this season. But let's dive into the winner first. Like I said, the Saints get all the credit in the world, but we had a major shakeup in this NFC South. Carolina and Tampa Bay are back tied, Austin. And like you said, two head-to-head matchups in the final 3 weeks for these two teams. Buckle up, baby, because this NFC South, it's going to be an interesting ride to see who gets in that 4 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm stoked. These two teams, like you said, gonna have to battle twice in the last 3 weeks. Um, and kind of depending on the results of those games and the games in between, we may not be settled.
Yep.
Um, especially if these teams split and then they win in the middle. Well, great, you've done nothing for us in your time. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I agree. But look, I don't know if we'll talk about it a little bit later, so I'll go ahead and mention it now. The guys are getting back on a bender here on Bet of the Week. I'm just gonna say it. We're getting back in the rhythm here as the season comes to a close. So I'll say hats off to both of us for some pretty spot on predictions of what ended up happening this weekend.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it, Austin. It's the one we've saved for last in the afternoon slate because we wanted to talk about it. Seahawks beat the Colts 18-16 here. Ladies and gentlemen, props to Seattle's kicker for this, but let's say it like it is. Phillip Rivers came out here and played a football game on even a freaking week's notice after 5 years off and, had a decent game 18-27, 120 yards, threw a touchdown pass in this game. And we'll dive in some news that broke the earlier this week. But just think about a certain quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, is not a starting quarterback in 2025, and Phillip Rivers is. But Austin, you were pumped about this one, as was I. I mean, your thoughts on this game because everyone was glued to in the afternoon slate.
Yeah, I was stoked. This was, I'm going to say it, an awesome performance for 1 week's notice, being out of
Mhm.
football shape for 5 years,
Yep.
to come out and play this kind of game. And look, 18 for 27, is it perfect? No. The one interception, is it perfect? No, but the one interception was on his last throw of the
Yes.
game. So you literally can't even hold it against him. It was on a drive to try and win the game. To me, I think this is an awesome performance. If I was Indianapolis, I would be ecstatic to try and get Phillip Rivers to go out next week. Another week of prep time. Again, sure, is he going to be kind of a liability when it comes to pressure and getting pressure on him? He's not really going to be able to escape that well. Sure, but he never was to begin with. Phillip Rivers was not an escape artist.
No.
Sure, maybe he might have been able to step up and step away a little bit better, but I don't think you're losing anything there. I think as far as a game manager, just making the throws, making the plays, this is a guy right now I think you could kind of trust to just try and maybe help you sneak into this postseason. I think I like Riley Leonard, um, but I think right now, I think I saw enough from Phillip Rivers to be like, I trust the Hall of Fame finalist um, to kind of carry us, especially now getting another week of reps in.
Yeah, as far as I know, they are planning for him to play on Monday Night Football, as far as I know, against the Niners. So we'll get Phillip Rivers in prime time. You'll love to
Yes.
see that. You'll love to see it. Again, imagine telling someone in 2025 you're going to watch Phillip Rivers play in prime time. I'm like, okay, what is he, a head coach of the Chargers or something? Like, did that happen? Nope. He's playing in prime time, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of prime time, oh boy, the Cowboys had everything in front of them and they blew it in a winnable game once again. Vikings go into Dallas, beat the Cowboys 34-26. Man, oh man, JJ McCarthy, not an amazing game, but a nice bounce back game for him to kind of gain a little bit more confidence. And again, it's a game where this season where he just needs games to gain sort of
Yeah.
confidence for the rest of his career. But again, this was Dallas. They beat the Eagles and they beat the Chiefs, and you think, hey, they're right there with the Eagles. Maybe they turn the corner and can do something with this division. And then you got back-to-back losses to the Lions and the Vikings where the defense doesn't show up and the offense doesn't click the whole time.
Yeah. Look, this is why I refuse to pick the Cowboys, because I do not like them. And then when I do pick them, when they've convinced me, they go out and they lose a game like this. Look, all credit to the Minnesota Vikings. Like you said, this is good game reps for JJ McCarthy because this is not a perfect game, but this is one of his better performances of the year.
Right.
Over 250 or exactly at 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like he made plays when he needed to make plays. Um, but this was a game that the Cowboys could have and should have won, and instead they kind of stubbed their toe. And now they had, an outside shot
Yeah.
at the playoffs, and
I
now
looked it up literally after the game, Austin. 1% chance. A 1% chance to make the postseason now.
yeah, I mean the way it currently stands, I think the Eagles have to lose out and they have to win out. I think
Yep.
that's their only path in now. Um, And I'm just afraid after the performance we saw from the Eagles this week. I know we didn't really hit on the game because it was a snoozer. But hey, you play the Raiders defense. It's a nice chance for everybody to wake up and
Right,
remember
right.
how to play football, which is what we saw from the Philadelphia Eagles. So I don't know if they're going to surrender 3 straight games here to close it out.
Yeah, and also they were playing Kenny Pickett, so it was a nice confidence boost for the Eagles
Yeah.
defense. Kenny Pickett only had 64 yards passing in this game on 15 completions. If that's not the Kenny Pickett that I know from Pittsburgh, I don't know who is. Speaking of Pittsburgh, they went on Monday night in 28-15 over the Dolphins in Austin. The cold weather streak continues for Miami. A game where pure and simple, it was ugly for most of the first half. But from the end of the first half to the rest of the game, it was all Steelers. As weird as this is for me to say, it was all Steelers pretty much the second half. The offense was clicking for the Steelers. They are still one game ahead of the Ravens in that AFC North. And then, obviously, for Miami, the news Tua being benched and moved to QB number 3. Now, behind Quinn Ewers, who's going to be starting, which me and you both said during the draft, we were like, that is not a bad pick for a seventh round guy. And then
I
the
agree.
backup now, Zach Wilson, for the rest of the season, which Miami's eliminated from playoff contention. So why not see what you got in Quinn Ewers? But I guess it's a two-part question. Number one, I mean, your thoughts on the Steelers' performance. But number two, with him moving to QB3 in Miami, is the Tua era officially over for him in Miami?
To start with the Steelers, look, great performance by the Steelers. Like you said, first half was kind of a snoozer, kind of boring. I watched it, hoping that in one of my fantasy leagues, I needed Devin Achane to score about 30 points, which I knew probably wasn't going to happen against the Steelers defense, though he's had a great season and he had a great game. So I don't fault you, Devin Achane, for why I fell out of the playoffs. I fault the Chicago Bears. Real quick, air my grievance in fantasy football.
Yes, go
Chicago
ahead.
Bears activate Romo Dunze, say he's healthy, opening kickoff happens, and then they say he's out. They say he's actually not gonna play. So Romo Dunze sitting in my lineup out 0 points when I could have played
Mm,
Luther Burden. Had I played Luther Burden the third, I would have won the game. And that would have been the only sub I could have made. As the only receiver I had that hadn't played yet. Um, and just kind of a tough situation there. I was a little bit disappointed that the Bears did that to me, and I had to rely on Devin Achane to score 30 points when his 24 whatever could have done. Uh, so a little bit disappointing there. But uh, with Tua and the Dolphins, yeah, I think this is over. And look, I know a lot of people are kind of looking at it as well. Wow, Tua down to 3, like they're really done with him. I think it's a little bit more than that. I think obviously, like you said, you want to see what you got in Quinn Ewers before you head into this draft and kind of see what you need, the moves you might need to make. Um, but my big thing is Mike McDaniel's talked about it. We're not just doing what's best for us. We're doing what's
mhm.
best, what we think for Quinn Ewers, what we think's best for Zach Wilson, what we think's best for Tua Tagovailoa. To me, that means keep Tua healthy. Because one, that makes him more valuable for us as we try to
Yes.
find somewhere else for him to go. But also, if he's healthy, that sets him up best for whatever his future may hold, whether he's bought out, whether he's traded. This sets him up to potentially become the starting quarterback or, at least compete for a starting job or a mentor job where, he leads, a rookie quarterback for a couple of weeks until they think the rookie quarterback's ready to go. I just think it's the move to 3 isn't to be like, bad Tua. You have been so bad, we don't even trust you to be our backup. I think it's more of a nod, like you're our emergency quarterback because we want to protect you. We're invested in your future. We care about you. Um, it didn't work out between us, but we care about your future and we care about your well-being. This is, to me, this is more of a tip of the cap to keep him healthy and to, extend his future in the NFL as a quarterback as long as possible. So to me, I think it is kind of a kind gesture. And to me, especially when he said doing what's best for Tua, Mike McDaniels and Tua have had a pretty good relationship since he's gotten there. And to me, that's more of the vibe that I get from this move. I do think it's over, but I don't think it's an entirely bitter move. I think it's two sides realizing they've tried, it's just not working. And now it's time for both sides to set themselves up as best as possible and move on peacefully.
Yeah, I think that's truly for the best, not just for him, but for, I mean, everyone there. And we'll see what the future holds for Mike McDaniel. We thought it was kind of shaky with the rough start, but then they got on that hot streak to kind of give themselves an outside shot. Now they're officially eliminated, so we'll see where they go. They already fired the GM this year, so it would make sense to do a full reset.
I'll say this. If Quinn Ewers can just come out and play great in this offense, I you don't want
I
to
think,
get caught in this cycle because stuff can happen. But why not give Mike McDaniel another year? If you're not
hmm
going to draft a quarterback this year and you're really not going to reset at the quarterback position, and he's already gotten a year in McDaniel's system,
yeah,
and he looks good to close out the season, like legitimately good. And you clearly you had the confidence to let McDaniels finish out the season. So at least there's a little bit of you that's like maybe he could come back next season. I'll fight for Mike McDaniel because I think he's a good coach. But I think why not? But I'm with you. If this is going to be a full-on reset, you're going to start trading some pieces. You're going to look for a new franchise guy. You've already reset at GM. Let's reset at head coach, and that way, GM, head coach, quarterback, the three like kind of staples to
Yes.
a football team are all together, are all on the same page. I think that would be the best way to do it if you're going to reset. But really, if you think Quinn Ewers might be your option, even if it's just for next year, maybe let Mike McDaniels come
Yeah.
back. Because if he looks good in McDaniels' offense, that's what McDaniels is, an offensive guy. If he looks good in McDaniels' offense in these last 3 weeks, why not see what you can do into next season? But really quickly before we move on, the Tyreek Hill social media post, did you see it?
Yes. Yes.
And it was already kind of a topic after this past offseason, but it looks like Tyreek Hill is saying, giving Dolphins plenty of heads up, I'm ready to go. I'll be interested to see kind of what happens there, especially he coming off a pretty rough injury as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, thank you for reminding me. I forgot I saw that. I was like, okay, yeah. But it also felt like it whenever he was cheering, whenever he was getting carted off the field, like he
Yeah.
was legitimately cheering. He's like, I don't gotta play him. I'm like, wow, like that was the most like stunning injury thing since like Earl Thomas flipping off his
The
own sideline
the
on the
Earl
way.
Thomas, will that
That
ever be
that
will
one
we
was
ever
so
see
bizarre. Like I couldn't believe it.
will we ever see something as crazy as that again? And in context, of course it makes sense. You
Right.
know,
Yes.
contract year, he wanted the extension. He comes out of his holdout to play in his contract year and he gets crazy hurt and it tanks all his and he knew it. I mean, he knew it right away it tanks all his value. So it's like obviously with the context and everything, you understand why it happened, but it's still just such a baffling image. He's being
I
quartered off and he flips the double bird to his sideline.
I
It's
mean, it's such a
hilarious.
bizarre thing. You got Cardinals players trying to pat him and talk to him, and he's just like, just like looking at him like that. I mean, it's bizarre. But let's take a look at the playoff picture here, Austin. Just 3 games left in this, or 3 weeks left in the regular season here. We have finally had teams clinch playoff spots this week, Austin. One in each conference. In the AFC, the Broncos being the first one to officially clinch a playoff spot. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it took until this past Sunday for a team to clinch a spot in the NFL playoffs. But they're at number one. Patriots, with their loss, are now a full game back of the Broncos for this one. And then the Jaguars, 3 seed at 10-4 still, and the Steelers at 8-6. They're the 4 seed. Wild card, Chargers Currently, there is the 5 seed at 10-4. Bills the 6 seed at 10-4, and then you got the Texans now in as the 7 seed at 9-5. You got the Colts and you got the Ravens. Really, that are the only two left competing in this AFC playoff for those spots. And really, again, like I kind of said a few weeks ago, I honestly think the only thing that will change out of all this will probably be either Steelers or Ravens, whoever gets in there at the end of the season. Because I feel we're set. No disrespect to the Colts. I just I don't know if they're going to be able to catch a red hot Texans and Jaguars teams since they lost to them very recently with those tiebreakers over them. But your thoughts on where we're looking at the AFC playoff picture?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I didn't even think it's that the Colts couldn't go on a 3 game, kind of win out here. But you just look at it. San Francisco is going to be a tough game, especially with San Francisco competing in the NFC. They obviously can't just coast to the finish and into the playoffs. It's going to be a fight. So that's going to be a tough game for them. And Houston, the team, really, it looks like they're going to be fighting with here down the stretch. They've got the Raiders this week, and if the Raiders' performances over the course of the season and
Mm,
obviously over the past couple of weeks have been any indicator, it shouldn't be much of a fight with the way Houston's playing. I just think Indianapolis could get hot here. Unfortunately, Houston is also hot, and Buffalo's playing really good, and the Chargers are playing really good. I think it's going to be just an unfortunate circumstance of just not being able to catch these teams here down the stretch.
yeah, I mean it really isn't. Can we again, Austin? Now and now, let's just say it like it is. Now that we know the Chiefs are not going to be in the playoffs, look at this playoff field we have. Is this the most balanced playoff field we may have ever seen? Potential first round matchups: Patriots and Texans, Jaguars, Bills, Steelers and Chargers. I mean, I really don't know where this AFC is going to go this year, and I'm thoroughly excited for where it's going to go.
The crazy thing to me is that we could legitimately see every team on the AFC side, and same could be said on the NFC side, depending on well, no, it couldn't be because of what's going to happen in the AFC South. It
Yeah.
could happen in the AFC South, but it's probably not going to happen. But this is something that I think it's not impossible to happen. We could see every team in the AFC have at least 10 wins in
Mm,
the playoff. Steelers are the furthest right now. They need to win 2 of their last 3, which still isn't impossible.
yeah.
It's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. Houston just has to win 1 more, or Indianapolis just has to win 2 more if those teams happen to do a flip flop here down the stretch. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of like you said, super well balanced. And you think about it, the Chargers, Bills, uh, and then Houston, I think, could realistically win 1, 2 more here, and we could have several 11, 12, 13, 14 win
Yeah.
teams down the stretch. And I don't know when's the last. I feel like it doesn't happen very often where we see
No.
every team in the playoff or even on just one side, has at least 10 wins.
I mean,
It feels
off
like
the top of
there's
my head, I
always
can't think of any. I really can't think of any.
feels like there's always the one division champ that scrapes in and wouldn't have made the playoffs if they weren't a division champ because they have
Yeah.
7 wins or what. I mean, 7 is an exaggeration, but
Right.
8, 9 wins, and they just kind of limp into the playoffs. But I mean, the Steelers are going to have to do a little bit of work to hold up that end of the bargain, or Baltimore's going to have to win out and take the division. Um, but it's really close to being a situation that could happen. To me, I think I just kind of find that a little bit interesting the way it stands
Yeah.
3 weeks out. Kind of a realistic possibility to see every team in the playoff with 10 wins.
Yeah. I mean, there's a possibility 9 teams across the NFL can clinch playoff spots this weekend, and there's 4 that are winning in. One of those is in the AFC with the Patriots. They beat Baltimore on Sunday night. They'll be in the playoffs. Now, Austin, you talk about those teams are set there. On the NFC side, who the heck knows what's going to happen looking at this field here? Rams get the 1 seed. They're the first NFC team to clinch a playoff spot. Barring anything unforeseen, depending on what happens tonight in Seattle whenever we get to it, it seems most likely they'll be the 1 seed. The Bears, Austin, after being the 7 seed drop in with a win and Packers loss, they move back up to the 2 seed right now. You got the Eagles as a 3 seed. And you got the Buccaneers, who currently have the tiebreaker over the Panthers. Obviously, that's one that could change with twice within the final 3 weeks. The 5 seed is the Seattle Seahawks. That's a crazy 5 seed right there for the Seattle Seahawks. Then you got the
Yeah.
49ers at 10-4. And like I said, the Packers at 9-4-1. And you got the Lions right behind them at 8-6. But the big thing that hurts the Lions here, Austin, Green Bay beat them both times this year. Beat them both times. They've got that tiebreaker over them head to head. So they would really need Green Bay to just go into a full downward spiral to have a chance. Carolina obviously still has a chance depending on what happens in those games. And Dallas has like I said, a literal 1% chance. So it feels like most of these teams are set like who could get in. But the places they could be in, Austin, oh, it could still move all over the place. We might see the Bears be the 2 seed, the 1 seed, or shoot, maybe even the 7 seed still.
Yeah. Look, I'm interested to see kind of how things shake out and what happens here in the NFC. Obviously, I think we're going to get a good indicator on what's going to happen here in the NFC based on
Yep.
how Green Bay comes out against
Mm,
Chicago. I think the Bears are good enough that they could win that Lions game at the end of the year, and get in. I think
you
we're
think?
that
Yeah.
talented, and still kind of limp in. But I'll be interested to see kind of how these two teams match up. I feel like this is an opportunity for the Bears. Look, I'm not saying that these injuries can completely set back Green Bay, but the best time to strike would be right now while they're trying to kind of
Yes.
rearrange everything with all these guys out. This would be the best time to take an opportunity to take advantage to get this win back. The big scary issue for the Bears is that sure we're at 10 wins right now, but we're 1-3 in our division.
Mm,
Um, so we need this Green Bay game pretty badly. And then we need to beat Detroit at the end of the year and at least go 500 in the division. Uh, I'm kind of hang us around because if Green Bay ends up falling off at the end of the year here and it's a tie with Detroit, I'd be interested to see where it goes. Based on what Detroit's able to do, kind of down the stretch here as well, because they're also sitting at 1-3 in the division right now. So hopefully, I like where the Bears stand. But yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is set. It'll be interesting to see what happens tonight to kind of flip flop the Rams and the Seahawks or not.
hmm
Um, but Philly, like I said, kind of feels set. And look, there's no point even trying to predict Carolina and Tampa Bay because those two teams
Yep.
have 2 games in the next 3 weeks to go ahead and settle it for us. So there's no need to even try and make a projection right now. They'll
No.
figure it out, hopefully.
Yeah. Hope. Keyword is hopefully. Watch it end up being like two ties or something that happen, and we're just like, what do we do now? What are we
Well,
supposed to do?
one wins one wins the other, and then they both win the game that they don't play the week they don't play each other, and
I
they
feel
just have
like
to
if they split, I feel like that favors Tampa Bay. I don't know why. I just feel like it ultimately would favor Tampa. Maybe strength of schedules there. But let's go ahead and let's dive into some game picks this week. A lot of fun games. And let's start tonight. Again, this one's about 30 minutes away from kickoff. Don't know if I'll get the preview up. I'm going to try my darndest, though. So we'll see. I'll probably be cutting it close. Biggest Thursday night game, probably in recent memory I can think of on Amazon. 11-3 Rams, 11-3 Seahawks in Seattle tonight. Winner gets control of the 1 seed in the NFC for sure. And not just that, but a 1 game lead over their rival for the NFC West to guarantee themselves at least a home playoff game along with that. So Austin, this is a massive game. And to talk about how much of a coin flip it is, spread is currently at 1.5 for this game in Seattle's favor.
yeah.
So this is a toss up. The first matchup between these two was an awesome game. And like I said during that, I really hope we see them meet in the playoffs because I think if we see a third time with these two teams, it could be really special. But what do you see happening tonight in probably in easily the biggest game of week 16?
We came out of this game saying Sam Darnold threw what, 5 interceptions
Like
in that
four or
game?
five, I think, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 4 or 5 interceptions. And we both came out saying, if I'm Seattle, I feel really good about that. Sam Darnold's not going to throw 5 interceptions every time. You played the Rams 100 times, 1,000 times. there's a handful of times I think Sam Darnold actually throws 5 interceptions. That's what we've seen just over the course of the last 2 years in Sam Darnold and over
Yes.
the course of the rest of the season. And I thought, I think you were with me, that we were going to see Seattle be much better than that. And if they could get back into a groove coming out of this game and Sam Darnold could play well, it'd be very interesting to see this second matchup. And guess what? In my opinion, Seattle's played some good football. Sam Darnold settled in. He's playing good football again. They clash now in Seattle. I like the Seahawks to take this one. I think it'll be a close game again, but I think you lost by one possession and Sam Darnold threw 5 interceptions. I don't think he throws 5 interceptions in this one. And I think in this game, at home in front of the 12th man, Sam Darnold makes the play to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth here. I mean, you look at that first matchup and you think, wow, great game between the two teams, and you think, man, going to be a great matchup. And can't believe Seattle was so close here. And then you look at it and go, wait a minute, 4 interceptions, and Seattle still had a field goal attempt to potentially win the game on the final play. You're like, at SoFi, it's like, man, it's like, I don't know if it will happen. For all we know, Sam Darnold could just struggle against the Rams again, but I want to see it at least be proven to me. So I agree with you. I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win this game. I think being at home on Thursday night, they'll have a chance to get that 1 seed. I see them taking it. Low scoring game, at least to me. I'd probably recommend the under. I think it'll be a lower scoring game. I think this will be more of a defensive matchup than the first one, at least in my opinion there. But big game on Thursday night. Big game on Saturday night. We're not going to pick Eagles Commanders, but just know, ladies and gentlemen, if the Eagles win this game, they will clinch the NFC East. But we're not going to pick that game if they beat the Commanders. The big game on Saturday, we're picking 7:20 p.m. on Saturday on Fox. Packers heading to Chicago to take on the Bears. Like you said, this is a massive game for both sides. Packers, we want to see what they look like with all the injuries they've had. Bears, a chance to kind of gain a little bit of separation, Austin. This is a true chance to gain some separation in this division that we really haven't seen this year. Big game at Soldier Field. We obviously know where you're leaning, but what are you hoping to see out of the Bears in this one?
I'm hoping to see how the Bears play in their home field. Obviously, if we win this game, kind of sets us up a little bit closer. I mean, the winner of this division looks like right now they're probably going to end up being the 2 seed. That's kind of the way these teams have been
Yeah.
flip-flopping as of late. If not the 1 seed, barring both NFC West teams kind of maybe slipping in a couple of games down the stretch here. Fingers crossed we could get a first round bye. But I'm not going to count on it. But I'll be interested to see how the fans here in December, if they can get loud, if they can be a force and be effective, because if we can win this game and we can kind of start to kind of cement ourselves in that 2 seed, even if we end up as a 3 or 4 seed, which is pretty much impossible to end up as the 4, but we'll be hosting a playoff game at that point. I'd like to see kind of what the fans, how they're going to impact the game, because last time we hosted a game at Soldier Field was the Double Doink. I'd like to see the
I
fans.
wasn't gonna bring it up. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but
I'll
yeah.
bring it up. I'm not scared to bring it up because right now we have a chance to right the ship and right the
Yes.
wrong. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the fans bring in the environment and a big game against the Packers, a team. If the playoffs started today, that would be the game. Packers come to Chicago in the first round. So how do we bring it against the Packers? And what do we see here? Can we capitalize? Can Caleb Williams be a little bit more calm? And look, we saw against an ineffective defense and an ineffective pass rush what Caleb Williams was able to do last week. He had a field day. For the Caleb Williams doubters, the ones who say whatever about Caleb Williams, he shut you up. He had a great performance this past week. I loved his press conference. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw I posted it to my story. They said, "Is that a bad decision to make that throw down the field?" And he said, "I can make any throw." And I completely agree. If you've been watching Caleb Williams in college, if you watched him last season, if you watched him this season, you know Caleb Williams can make any throw in any situation. He makes that throw. He's been awesome. I love the way the Bears are playing right now. I think this is the chance, no matter what happens to the Packers after these injuries, I think it's going to be so tough for the two biggest playmakers on each side of the ball in last week's game to go out. It's going to be a completely different game plan, completely different attack. I mean, look, after last week's game, the Packers have to be thinking we need to do that same thing when we go to Chicago. And now you're not going to have the effectiveness of the maybe the best pass rusher in the NFL, and Micah Parsons, a guy who is definitely going to be a candidate for the Defensive Player of the Year this year. Um, you're not going to have the speedster and Christian Watson, who broke away on two huge touchdowns against Chicago's pretty elite secondary in the last game. So you're going to have to find different ways to get it done and have success. I think this is the chance for the Bears to come out and take advantage of that adjustment and game plan and not having those star guys to make a play while we're playing at our best with our best completely healthy. So it'll be an interesting matchup to see for sure. But I like the Bears and what they can do. I'll be interested to see how Soldier Field looks in this game, though, because I want to see what the fans are going to look like as we get closer to playoff time and we look like a legitimate threat here in the NFC.
Yeah, again, with all the injuries the Packers just suffered there and no Micah Parsons for that pass rush, I got to go with Chicago here. I don't see it. I think Jordan Love would have to play some phenomenal football here, which, if I'm being honest, last year down the stretch really didn't inspire that much confidence in me. And now you're seeing it down the stretch here. He's got to play a big game. If he plays a big game, they can win this game, and he will have my respect for that. But I'm going to pick the Bears until that point. Sunday slate. Austin, let's get to it. It's the matchup we hinted at. 7-7 teams going at it in the NFC South. Carolina Panthers host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first of the two matchups still to come here in this one in Carolina. I mean, who the heck knows what we're going to see? We thought Carolina had a chance to jump, and then the Saints beat them. Like you said, there's no point in projecting, but we're going to project anyway. Who wins this game and gets first in the NFC South?
Um, Look, this is a tough pick and it's in tough environment, but look, I'm going to go with what I believe in most here, and it's not that I think Carolina is a bad team by any means, and I'm not going to say that Dave Canales is a bad motivator, but to me, it was a gut punch on Thursday night to lose to the Atlanta Falcons. But you go in, Todd Bowles chews you out. You know you're going to have two chances to make things right and still win this division. And then I think it's got to be an even bigger boost that on Sunday, Carolina loses to New Orleans. And right there, you're right back in it. Now you're 7-7. Now these two games you have are even bigger because you're not playing from behind coming into this game like you thought you might be. You're playing tied and you're playing in control of the division. So I'm not going to say Dave Canales didn't also have some empowering speech to try and motivate these guys and get them going. But I am going to say, after everything that this team's been through, the type of resilience they have, they're back. They've got everybody back. And now a little bit of hope has been inspired in this team after Carolina couldn't get the job done. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get the job done. I think it'll be a close game with the way these teams are playing as of late, but I trust Baker Mayfield to kind of give us flashbacks to maybe the beginning of the season. That 2-minute drill, maybe he manufactures a game-winning drive.
All right. Not going to lie. Uh, we talked about, the worry of a possible split in these two games. I very much see it happening, and we're going to have a split in our picks here. I'm picking Carolina to win this game. And before you ask me why, I don't freaking know. Don't freaking ask me. No, the offense, I think, for Carolina has gotten a lot better the last couple of weeks. Bryce Young's been a lot better. He's found Tetaroa and McMillan more often because they were mainly a ground game team through half the season. Rico Dowdle was doing everything offensively, but now they're gaining
Yeah.
more confidence passing the football. I think that can lead to success for them. And the defense has played pretty solid. They're at home, so sure. Why the frick not? I'll pick Carolina. Why not? Other matchup that we're going to dive into here. Very interesting one for the noon slate. Last one before we dive into it. Chargers heading to Dallas to take on the Cowboys here. Chargers need this one to keep up in the AFC West with the Broncos. They want any chance end of the year. And then the Cowboys, look, let's say it like it is. Entering this Sunday, you might be eliminated from the playoffs depending what happens with Philadelphia on Saturday night. So one of your final home games, you want to see maybe a strong finish here. Despite the Chargers, Austin, being the better team, Cowboys a 2.5-point favorite in this one over the Chargers. Do you see the Cowboys covering this one and winning as a favorite, or do the Chargers get another win to try to keep up with the Broncos in that AFC West?
I'd watch this line in this game, especially with what happens on Saturday between the Commanders and the Eagles. If the Eagles are able to pull that one out, I'll say this. I think that spread starts to change, and that's where I'm going to lead. I'm going to say the Eagles clinch on Saturday,
Yeah, I would
even though
agree.
we're not formally picking that game. I think the Eagles will clinch on Saturday.
Agreed.
I think you don't have a lot to play for if you're Dallas. Not saying that they'll quit and they won't go out and try, but I think it's going to be harder in this game. I think the Chargers are the better team. I think we see Justin Herbert kind of have his best game as of late after all, the injuries and the surgery. I think he has a really good game here against kind of the lackluster Cowboys defense, and make some big things happen here. I like the Chargers to win this one. And if they end up being dogs in this game come Sunday, won't be my bet of the week because I don't
But
think that'll be the
you're
case come
but you're
Sunday.
gonna keep an eye on
But
it.
but I would say this much. If the Chargers are truly underdogs, right, at 11 o'clock on Sunday, if I was you, I'd go ahead and put a little money down. At least betting with the spread for the Chargers because I just don't. I don't know how anybody could be getting that vibe coming into this game after last week's game.
That is very fair there. It kind of seems like Dallas has mailed it in. I, there's a small part of me though. I'm picking the Chargers to win this game, Mike, 'cause I agree with you on that. But there's a small part of me that we might see Dallas play their best game the entire season. I'm not even joking here. I don't know what it is. I feel like even if the Eagles win, like I agree with you. I'm pretty confident they're going to win on Saturday and clinch the NFC East. Um, so yeah, I'm going to pick the Chargers in this game, but I don't know what it is. I would not be shocked if Dallas goes out there and just beats them handedly. I'm being dead serious here. This will be a close game. Now let's go to the afternoon slate. Austin, it is my worst freaking nightmare in this one. Lions and Steelers at Ford Field on Sunday afternoon. Steelers need this one to really kind of fully gain control of that AFC North over the Ravens. Lions need this one to just try to keep their playoff hopes alive. Whoever loses here, it's a severe loss no matter what. So both teams need these wins. Man, oh man, Austin, I don't know what I'm gonna do with with Dan Campbell or the Steelers. I don't freaking know. I'm gonna have to think about it right now. But who do you think wins this one in Ford Field on Sunday afternoon?
I think it'd be a close ball game, a good ball game. Like I've been saying, I like a lot of these matchups that we're talking about, and I like the competitiveness I think we're going to see between these two teams. Um, but look, this is purely going to be a biased pick for me. I'm going to go with the one that helps out the Bears the most in their playoff and NFC North race here. If the Lions lose and fall to 8-7, especially if we can win on Saturday and be sitting at 11-4, the Lions are one less team I have to worry about. And that Lions game at the end of the year, though I'd like the Bears to win, I feel like I'll be able to breathe a little bit easier because it'll be a little less close to have to worry about. So I'm going to go with the Steelers here. The defense is looking good. I think Aaron Rodgers, as much as I hate to say it, is playing some of his best football right here, right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And while he didn't get to play in the game against the Bears, and technically, the Steelers did lose that game, he still is playing some of his best football against NFC North teams, finding a way to get it done. So I think that also aids him a little bit as he goes into Detroit, a place he's all too familiar playing inside of.
Yeah. Oh man, what the frick do I do here? I don't doubt Dan Campbell, but they're playing the God. Yeah, give me a tie. I'm kidding. No, I'm not going to pick a tie. I'm going to stick with my team as much as it pains me to say it. It's my number one team versus my number one coach, so I got to go with the team. I got to go with the Steelers to win the game. But I will just say this: if the Lions beat the Steelers, I'm not going to be like heartbroken about it. I'm like, okay, good for Dan, good for Dan. He keeps it up. But honestly, I'm going to be sitting there just the whole time, no matter what happens. I'll just be devastated either way because either Steelers give a chance for the Ravens to get back in it, or we knock the Lions and Dan Campbell really out of the playoffs. And I'm like, we've won, but at what cost? Like,
Yeah.
what did we do to this? So it'll be an interesting matchup there. Another interesting one, Austin, at on Sunday afternoon. 10-4 Jaguars heading to Denver to take on the 12-2 Broncos. This is an intriguing one, really, for it, Austin. Broncos continue to win these one-score games. Jacksonville's offense has been clicking. Trevor Lawrence, dare I say, has looked the best in his NFL career over these last couple of weeks. Obviously, the opponents are maybe not the same caliber, some, but he's playing some of the best football of his career. And if Jacksonville wins this, Austin, Chargers fans, if they win, are feeling fired up because those two meet in week 18, and that could be the final game, and that could determine who wins that division there. So, interesting matchup in Mile High. Who do you have here winning this one of two big time playoff teams we're going to see this year in the AFC?
I like this game and this matchup. And as much as I was just talking about how much I like the Broncos, I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars in this one. They've
Woo!
had a couple surprises up their sleeve this season, and now they're riding high and playing good football. I like the Jacksonville to come in to Denver and play a good ball game, a close competitive ball game, but win in this one.
Wow, I thought I was going to be in the minority here. I completely agree with you. I'm picking Jacksonville to win this game as well. Again, I think Trevor Lawrence is playing some of his best football. They're playing their best football right now. Plus, I feel like it's just been so long with like I say with the Chiefs whenever they did last year, you can only play with fire for so long before you
Yeah,
eventually get burnt. And it's not that I'm saying Denver's a bad team. I'm just saying all these one score games, it might result in them losing a one score game eventually. And I think Broncos fans will agree with me when I say this. I think they'd rather lose this one score game here than lose a one score game in the playoffs. So
agreed.
I'm going to lean with the Jaguars in this one. I thought I was in the minority there, but we're going to go with it. Now to Sunday Night Football, Austin, a Sunday night flex that we got here. Thank goodness this is not Bengals and Dolphins in prime time. Thank goodness. Thank you for flexing it out here. Instead, we get an intriguing one. 11-3 Patriots heading to Baltimore to take on the 7-7 Ravens. Patriots still holding out control of the AFC East, but they got to keep on winning. And you got the Ravens who are looking to keep up with the Steelers. A Steelers win, Ravens loss, all but officially wraps up this AFC North. So they got to get it. Patriots want to win this division over the Bills. An intriguing Sunday night football matchup in Baltimore. Who do you got in this one?
I like the Ravens, and I do like what they're capable of. They're an exciting team. I think the Patriots are just playing better football right now, and there's just a lot missing from this Ravens team still. I think the Patriots get the job done and get themselves clinched into the playoffs and probably send the Baltimore Ravens packing.
One can hope. I haven't done a bias pick in a while. New England, I am rooting for you for the first time in forever. Get the freaking job done here. Beat them, please. I beg you. Because even if the Steelers lose, if y'all beat them, I'm feeling really freaking good about where we're at. So, New England, get the job done. I don't care how ugly or how pretty it is. Win by 100, win by one. Just get the job done. Put the Ravens at 7-8, where they play the Packers next week, and they can lose to them potentially before they play us. We can have this AFC North wrapped up. Now, Monday Night Football, Austin. The Phillip Rivers prime time game is here. 8-6 Colts hosting the 10-4 49ers. Like you said, what's Phillip Rivers going to look like, Austin, with another full week under his belt here for the Colts and the Niners? It seems like, Austin, while they're not still 100% a healthy team, the players they have seem to be getting healthy at the right time. So this is another intriguing matchup in primetime Monday Night Football. Do you got Phillip Rivers getting his first win back here on Monday Night Football?
I do. I'm going to go with the surprise pick here. I'm going to take the Colts to win this
Hey,
game. I'm going to go with Phillip Rivers to go out and play a good game. Um, I don't know. I just want to see Phillip Rivers win one. Really, I know that's not the expert analysis you've come to know and love from me, but I just want to see Phillip Rivers win one. So I'm going to take Phillip Rivers and the Colts in this game.
all right, all right, all right. I love the story of Phillip Rivers. Again, I just think the Niners are playing their best football at the right time of year here. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. It's no disrespect to the Colts with all the injuries they stuff. I think the Niners, the players they have left, are playing their best at the right time. I think they get the win here and all but clinch a playoff spot. Which, by the way, can I just say I know there's a lot of great candidates, but Kyle Shanahan for Coach of the Year, I think he's earned it with this Niners roster and doing what he's done with them. I mean, I know you're going to lean Ben Johnson probably. I think he's a fair candidate as well. But I mean, it's hard to imagine him. To me, it's hard to imagine, given all the injury stuff that happened, to still come out and have the success. I think it's really impressive.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think certainly if this team makes the playoffs, especially, that's a conversation to have. Obviously, sitting at 10 wins right now, I mean, even a 10, 11 win season and missing the playoffs, probably still a pretty good spot to hang your hat on for Coach of the Year. Obviously, yeah, I'm gonna hope that Ben Johnson can pull it off, but I don't disagree with you that he should definitely be in the running, and if not the winner. I mean, you're talking about it. We're talking about running your actual second string unit on both sides of the football for portions of this season and winning games kind of handily. Mac Jones
Mhm.
played some good games
Mhm.
this season for this team. And so, yeah, we shouldn't forget just how many backups had to play at the same time for this team. So, yeah, I would agree with you. The job he's done in his tenure has been fantastic. And, it's been refreshing with him in San Francisco. He comes in, they make that Super Bowl run, and then they get into this era that's like the post Jimmy G era. And for some franchises, this would have been a reset at head coach and, just kind
Mhm.
of a reset everywhere. For the Niners, they stuck with Kyle Shanahan because he is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I'm there for it. I mean, this was the guy I was thinking that the Bears should try and get a phone call with and an interview with last year while they were in the middle of their coaching search. Um, but for him to just, stick around, for them to keep him around, and to continue to find the success through all the hurdles, through all the hoops. Yeah, it's honestly just an amazing job by San Francisco and by Kyle Shanahan. Everything they've accomplished really in his tenure.
Yeah, absolutely there. But Austin, let's see if we can stay red hot here. Let's go to the bet of the week to wrap this up. Colts plus 13 and a half. Easy money for you. Saints money
Easy.
line for me or Panthers wasn't easy money, but it was a winner. So it was a great weekend for us, Austin. One of the few great weekends we have had this year with our bets of the week together. Can we continue it? Let's hope to go 2-0 once again and make it four straight NFL bets of the week. What do you have for us this weekend?
I have a game that's not going to be one anybody's going to watch, and that's why it's drawn to me so much. I'm going to go Jets Saints under 40 and a half points.
Mm,
Um, these two teams are kind of stinkers in a game that's maybe going to be who can lose this game because both teams have a little bit more to gain from a loss. I don't know if either of these teams are going to do anything crazy offensively or try to do anything crazy offensively for that matter.
okay. As for my bet of the week, Austin, I'm doing it. It is an official bet of the week hate watch. Give me Patriots money line against the
I
Ravens. I'm
love it.
doing it. A
I
hate week
love
watch.
that.
I don't care. This is a hater watch. You're darn right. It is a hater watch on Sunday Night Football. Also, I can't believe Austin. Patriots are 3-point underdogs in Baltimore. Like that's truly shocking to
Yeah,
me. Like even if I wasn't rooting for it, I would still bet that because that's so bizarre to me that they're an underdog to the Ravens here.
I agree with you just because, I mean, I'll say this much. Like, the Patriots are the better team coming into this game. I know what the Ravens are capable of. I know they're going to be playing at home, but I just think at some point you got to consider the momentum of the New England Patriots. But hey, I don't set the lines. I don't make the lines, and I know really nothing about it. There's a science to it, and I'll say this: Vegas's lines are usually right around where they need to be, enough
That
to
is
make
very
you
fair.
sweat it out. Except for when I called them out last week for the ridiculous Colts line. That was such a
Yeah.
ridiculous and unprofessional line.
I
I
literally bet that because I agree with you, and I didn't even have you never even had to sweat that pick at all.
no, I mean, I just thought it was. I honestly thought it was a little unprofessional, and a little bit disrespectful. The Colts have been a good team this year, and Phillip Rivers, again, Hall of Fame semifinalist, he could come out there and manage a game and keep it close, and that's exactly what he did. He gave him a chance to win the game, not just keep it close.
Yeah. So there's our bets of the week. You got the under there in Saints and Jets. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Don't plan to watch that. The only time I'll look at that is when it appears on the screen on Red Zone where Scott Hanson's
Yeah.
like, all right, every touchdown, every game, we're going to have that. That's the only time I think I'm going to see it on there. And they say you got that under there, 40 and a half. You got Patriots plus money line, like plus money on the money line. That's our bets of the week. Can we get two consecutive weeks of 2-0 in the NFL bets of the week? One can hope. That's going to do it for us here at the Ball Take Podcast. Again, get ready. We are 24 hours away, at least from this recording, for the college football playoff round one. Get to that episode on our YouTube channel or on our Spotify account. Get there, listen to it, watch it, get ready for all the football. This college football playoff starting this weekend, all the NFL games. It is going to be an all-time football weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle up for it. But we will see you early next week for an NFL episode, no college football episode. You'll know why if you watch the college football
Yep.
episode. You'll know exactly why there. But we'll see you next week with a new NFL episode, probably early next week. That's going to do it for us here. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Waiter, and we want to thank you for watching.